How is the space surrounding you right now? Is it big? Is it small? Does it have natural light? Ventilation? Are you even indoors or outdoors? But most important, how do you feel in that space? Do you feel fine? Maybe stressed? Do you feel light? Do you feel pressured? Does it make you feel happy? Have you ever thought about who designed it? Did you take part in that design? If I was asking you this question 20 years ago, this would most likely be the space you would be surrounded by right now. A post-industrial design made to be replicable in any working space anywhere in the world, optimized to be mass-produced. Asking you this question today after Google has become one of the leader companies in the world, after co-working spaces have sprouted all around our cities, today that most of us work freelance and we don't even own a private physical space, the answers to these questions are extremely different from 20 years ago. And at this point you may think, are there still any opportunities left to innovate in the design of new spaces? Well, as you guessed, of course there are. You only need to look at your surroundings. You only need to be aware of the spaces you usually inhabit. In 2009, the neighbors from La Latina, an area downtown Madrid, were quite surprised because their public gym was demolished, and a few months after this demolition the city hall published that they were also going to demolish their local market and that everything was going to be turned into a high-class shopping mall. Fortunately, this process was going to take several time, and this gave the neighbors an opportunity to take action. They decided to break into the plot that had been left as a concrete surface and reappropriate it. They decided to transform it into what was going to become the new cultural center of the neighborhood, the Campo de la Sawada. They built urban orchards, they built sports fields, they built meeting spaces, relaxing spaces, an open-air cinema. They built what they felt was most necessary for their neighborhood. The Campo is a living space. It was built 70 years ago and still today it continues to change. This space is constantly transformed by the locals, but it has also become a space of opportunity for all of the young designers and architects to produce their new projects, to build them in that side and try them and test them. It's become an exploration field. The Campo has hosted many different things. It has even hosted a TEDx Madrid event, an event where all the young creators, the emergent designers, joined in this space to talk about innovative processes in the design of public spaces for all. But what we cannot forget about the Campo is that it's a space that was created by the neighbors for the neighbors. In the end, the Campo is a place where you can go and relax after a working day, where you can take your children to play sports, where you can cultivate your vegetables. In the end, a place that responds to the needs of the neighbors at every time. This space has been built by aggregation. No one ever decided what the Campo was going to look like. No one designed the whole of it. This process included neighbors, but it also engaged all the emerging communities of designers living in the city. Designers that were invited to hold workshops so that the neighbors could participate in them, and through those workshops design specific pieces for specific needs. The result? An extremely complex and still today evolving public space for all. Junk spaces are all over our surroundings. Are you not familiar with this picture? Construction sites, refurbishment of buildings, these fences, these ugly objects are all over our cities. Raquel and Isabel, two young Spanish architects, lived in the Magdalena Street, and as soon as they moved in, The building in front of their house started construction. So almost the whole street was covered with one of these fences. One day, they were so tired of the situation, of seeing the same fence every day in front of their home, that they decided to take action. They decided to give this fence a disruptive use. They turned it into a gallery, the Magdalena Gallery. This gallery hosted over 100 different exhibitions while the construction works were going. With this gallery, they not only changed the image and perception of the street, they also invented a new gallery format, a format they call the Urban Gifts. Every artist that shown his or her work in this gallery had to share it into a Creative Commons license, so that every pedestrian, every person that walked by the street could take any of these art pieces to their home. The city was turned into a gift machine. The city is a place where you can collect art, when you can create and collect culture. This gallery, of course, ended the time that the construction work ended as well. It was an ephemeral act, and even though this gallery disappeared, the work of Raquel and Isabel did not go unnoticed. They started multiple other projects that dealt with the appropriation of junk spaces around the city. They got to one point that they got a commission from the public transport company to change the subway stations into something new. And they invented something new again. They created the Suburban Gifts. They turned the station walls into galleries again. And those galleries also contained common license art pieces that anyone could take them, so that they will travel around the subway lines and end up in the homes of people that lived very far away across the city. In the end, what they're doing is something very simple. They're changing the way we see our common surroundings. We are so common to walking through the metro, through the subway. We're so common to walk into our streets that we never stop to think what they really are, what are their opportunities. And that is exactly what they do. By introducing unexpected programs, unexpected uses, suddenly everyone gets aware of where they are, and the space becomes an enjoyable space. Changing the perception we have of our common spaces is what our next collective does. Their name is Mistura, and their origin is in graffiti. They usually work with areas of our cities that are deprived, the poorest areas of our cities, which are usually the most unattended ones. This building is located in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Panama. It's one of the main buildings of it. And this is their intervention. Somos luz, we are light. The change is subtle. The building remains the same. It's still a residential building. But what they created is something different. They created a representative space, a new symbol for this neighborhood. They turned a generic building into a place where its inhabitants could feel proud of their surroundings, could feel proud of where they lived and how they lived. In the end, they could feel proud of themselves. Unfortunately, sometimes governments don't want this to happen. They don't want citizens to feel proud of themselves. They don't want citizens to feel empowered. This building attracted tourists to this area, one of the poorest areas of the city, and the government did not like that. They did not want tourists seeing what those areas really looked like. So almost a year after the completion of the intervention, the government decided to cover it again and turn it again into another generic building of another generic neighborhood. Mistura has become quite a famous collective right now. They work for privates, they work for institutions, and they also work with different kinds of spaces around the city. This is our next example. This is another of their intervention spaces. The junk space left under a highway in the outskirts of Madrid. And this is how it looks like after the intervention. Here, what is most important about this project is the process. Boa Mistura designed everything. They decided what colors were going to be put, they decided the shapes, they decided the furniture, they decided what the space was going to look like, but to build it, they contacted the locals. The locals were responsible of building the project. They talked with local schools, they talked with local associations, and with the help of everyone, with the help of the community, is how the space got transformed. This is absolutely fundamental, because these kind of interventions sometimes fail. What they created here was a space based on an emotion, based on a memory. All the neighbors, all the community participated in creating this space, and that's why today it still looks as good as it was just after finishing, because all of the neighbors are taking good care of it. Well, as I've said before, I believe that every little change in our surroundings is a potential change to the world. Have you not seen this picture before? Almost every street in every city in the world has one of these empty tree holes that has become something more similar than a trash can than anything else. Well, a group of young designers from another area of Madrid were fed up of this situation, and they decided to take part. Adopt a tree hole. We will give you the plants and the soil, you only need to take good care of it. They designed a really simple set of instructions so that anyone could read them and take action. And the result? Impressive. This is Yoli. She owns a coffee shop that is just in front of this tree hole. She planted almost 3 years ago, and still today she takes care of it. Even now the tree has disappeared, so only the plants she takes care of are there. In another part of the city, probably a cactus lover made this cactus garden. Maybe he did not have enough space in his home to have this garden, or maybe he saw the opportunity in the street. He decided to turn the tree hole in front of his house into this beautiful garden. You see, sometimes the simpler the designs, the better the results. As you have seen, many young design collectives, artists, architects have appeared recently in Spain, and they all have something in common. That is that they all tend to build things. They build prototypes, they build large objects, large interventions. And so one of these collectives, TXP Architects, saw an opportunity here. All of those collectives are really young, so most of them don't have a space on their own. They don't have a space where they can produce their prototypes. And so that is why they decided to create the Do-It-Yourself Institute, an infrastructure that would work as a workshop for the rest of the collectives. A space that is inside an old warehouse that has all of the tools necessary to work in wood, to work in steel, to, in the end, prototype. They have become the makers of the rest of the collectives. But they not only have become the makers, they're also making makers. Through a series of workshops, they encourage people to become makers. They encourage people to make their own things, to make their own designs, to change their surroundings. As you see, we're absolutely surrounded by opportunities. We only have to look for them. We have to design spaces for the unexpected. We have to design unexpected spaces for our everyday lives. And now, wait a moment. How would you change your surroundings?